Absolutely.
It's so unlike anything that I've ever
right.
experienced.
And you don't realize
exactly.
it because you hear New Mexico and you go, oh, desert.
Right.
Drive through to get to the next state.
Right.
But there's so much here. It's
right.
And I explain that to people all the time because when I go back home, they'll be like, "Oh, you're going to school in New Mexico." They're like, "What's going on in New Mexico?"
Is
exactly.
Is it really Mexican? Is there a lot of Mexican influence?
Exactly.
And like,
when's the last time you've been in America? I mean,
they asked that too. They're like, "Did you have to get
an
international?" And I'm like, "No, it's actually a part of the United States."
Yeah,
but
and you are American, so why don't you know that?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know. The video's really interesting, but I've lived here full time for almost 10 years. My mother was drawn to the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, so we always vacationed around the Enchanted Circle. That was the only place we would ever go for vacations. And I'm one of 6, youngest, so I'm kind of the bratty one. But I am, and I admit it. On the way up, she would just be always telling every trip we made, these mountains just called me, and we're all rolling our eyes.
Yeah.
And now I'm the one that's there, and I'm hopefully will be there forever. I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah. But,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So what drew you to Angel Fire, though? Just the way the mountains and the community and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I really had thought about moving to Taos or Santa Fe. My husband passed away about 20 years ago. I went to Texas Tech, and so that's where you kind of end up staying, where you go to college a lot of times. And so I ended up in Lubbock, and that's where, we bought our home, we raised our children, and I worked in the marketing field.
Okay.
I had a very high-powered marketing job in Texas. Okay. And after my husband died and the boys had gone, and, it was like I was there with the house and working, and that was all I did. And my youngest, Marcus, was a ski enthusiast, so he had started working on the mountain at Angel Fire, because we had property there.
Yeah.
So he started teaching ski when he was in high school, and so he would go during the off seasons and go up, and we'd ski there a lot. We skied the Circle, Taos, Red River, Angel Fire a lot.
It's pretty up there, my gosh.
Beautiful. And so when he graduated college, he had spent his senior and junior year, he did an international program. And so he was in the States for 6 months, and he was in France for 6 months.
Wow.
So he did in Evergreen, you write your own thesis as to what you want your program to be. And as long as you get a professor to sponsor, you write your own educational bill.
Yeah.
And so his had to do with French culture, and so he was back and forth for 6 months in France and then 6 months here. Well, he had just graduated, and he came home, and he was getting ready to go to work, and he just kind of said, "Why don't you go with me?" And I was 50, and he said, "Dad's not here in this house, and anywhere you go is home."
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
And so
Right.
I said, "Well, what would I do?" And he said, "Well, let's see if you can get a job on the mountain." So, as silly as that sounded, we went up. I tested. I got a job at ski school in Angel Fire. I went home. I quit my job overnight. We closed because I had 10 days to be back on the mountain at that time. Closed the house up for the season. We worked on the mountain, and for him, it was like, "Come go with me. We'll live together." He hadn't lived with me since he was in high school. That was, we'll ski every day, and that's what we did. We worked together on the mountain as ski instructors, and we lived together. It was the best season I'd had, since the boys were at home, and I stayed. I never went back. He went on, but that's my real story.
That's
I ran away at 50 to ski every day.
That's awesome.
That's
fantastic.
Awesome.
And
it paid off.
Well, and actually, after a couple of years, the chamber hired me. I hadn't thought about going back to work as full-time as I am. But so I've been at the chamber since 2011, I think.
Goodness.
That's when I took over the chamber.
Yeah, and here you are nominated for an ethics award.
Yeah.
That is
cool.
Wild. Oh
Cool.
my goodness.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
That's my real story.
That's brave. Wow.
So what made you want to go to the commerce? Like, how did that end up? How did that deal end up working?
I had worked being a marketer,
Mm-hmm.
in my job in Texas. I worked my way up there from starting out part-time in school pretty much, and ended up as a regional marketing manager for 3 states with the company that I was with.
Wow.
And, I think just the fact that I had worked so much with chambers of commerce and this little chamber in Angel Fire, it's small town politics, and there had been a big split, and everybody's mad at everybody. And I was so new to the community, I really didn't have the this person's mad at this or why or the what for, but it was getting ready to close.
Okay.
And so they asked me if I would come in. A friend of mine was the state tourism director at the time.
Did you meet him skiing?
No.
Oh.
I met him when I was working my other job in Texas. But they did come ski.
Yeah.
I get everybody to come ski.
Yeah.
But it was at that time when, she was doing consultant work for the little chamber in Angel Fire, because it really was struggling.
Yeah.
And she asked if I was interested in coming in and helping put that back together.
Wow, that was wow.
That works out.
So I agreed to do that, and I'm still there.
So you worked at a commerce in Texas?
Well, I worked with the Chambers of Commerce real close as a marketer. If you're any marketer in a big firm, you're usually the designated chamber member.
Okay.
And that's just the way it is in a lot of the bigger companies.
Okay.
So I worked really close.
So you were familiar with the commerce stuff, and so
okay. Oh, I was a big member of the ambassador teams, and that's something that most chambers have.
Okay.
That they actually do work for the chamber to promote other businesses. A chamber is we're a nonprofit organization, membership organization, but our whole goal is to promote businesses and to help bring economic value into your community by helping those people with their businesses. The one here in Albuquerque, I'm really familiar with the lady that leads it, because I'm in a state group that's chamber executives, and they probably have 6,000 members, and we have 200.
That's a small community.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have 1,200 people full time.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we swell. All of our closest friends come to see us during the ski season. And there's probably 6,000 in town at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, not the whole season, but definitely during the holidays, there's that many. But yeah, it's crazy.
Are there a lot of cabins up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's how it is. My aunt has a place in Pagosa, and so she has a house there, and she just goes and skis.
Yeah, we have 1,200 full time.
Okay.
And that's adults, children, elk, dogs. 1,200.
Yeah.
And then we have another 850 homes that are part-time residents, and they rent them out, VBO, or they
there's
rent
probably
them
some
out.
nice houses up there too. I've seen some.
There's a lot of big names that have homes up there because they can be so secluded. $1 million homes.
Oh yeah.
Up there that unless you're just right at it, you wouldn't even know it was up there.
They're
Of
hidden
people that come specifically because there's nobody else there. Nobody's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Totally
neat.
understand.
I was trying to think of another question I was supposed to ask.
Okay.
So you had mentioned. No, you're fine. You had mentioned that you're getting your IOM degree. Why? Why are you? What is that exactly? I'm sorry.
It's Institution of Organizational Management, which is put on by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And as an executive, I had never actually worked running a nonprofit Chamber of Commerce before.
Okay.
I came from the marketing field into doing that. And so anytime I go into a position, I'm going to learn everything I could learn about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever be caught saying, I don't know if we can do that or not.
Yeah, you want to be knowledgeable. You want to understand what's going on.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the first thing is to, to really know the bylaws in and out, to know how to work for somebody that a board runs.
Okay.
For all nonprofits. Well, the U.S. Chamber puts on this school that you go to learn how to run a nonprofit business or how to run a Chamber of Commerce, an association. They let lots of people in. And I went specifically because even at my age, you need to learn. You need to constantly learn. And if I'm going to run a business, I want to make sure that I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of people in my little small town that'll tell you this is what you're supposed to be doing, and it's so wrong.
Yeah, you can't go by what other people say. You have to know.
But you also have to watch when you're dealing with other leaders and business people that you don't come across like, that's not right. But when you have the school behind it, I can then say very gently, well, this is what I learned. And maybe that's how we did it in the past, but possibly we could get in trouble with the IRS doing it that way. Or we could lose our license because this is really what's written. This is the law, and this is how we should look into doing that. And maybe we'll have a meeting so that we can go over it and you'll understand it as to why we're not going to do it that way. So I wanted that so that I really wouldn't be intimidating people too, because, well, we've just been doing it this way forever, and not step on their toes because they have been leading. Although you want to just go, it's so wrong. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason.
Okay.
So I'll graduate in January.
Congratulations.
Which actually is like a master's in
Okay. So it is a program.
Law.
Is it like several different little like classes, workshop kind of things that you do in a way? Like
there's sessions that you have to go to. Okay. Like I've been to Tucson, Arizona at their university. They'll put a week-long session together at a time. So there's mandatory classes that you have to take to be able to graduate. And it's a 4-year program. Okay. And I've been to Georgia a couple of times to their college there in Athens. And I go back to Tucson this year to graduate. But they put them on. It's really a big deal. Yeah. They put them on at several colleges all over the United States at different sessions.
Okay, because I know some people have to do like CEUs and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that, but it's more in depth. It's not just like a workshop. You're actually learning.
Right. It's actually a degree.
Yeah, it's
that you get, and then you do the CE. You're following if you want to, but it's a degree.
Do you have to do CEUs?
College degree.
Do you have to do it for the college?
Only if I choose to. Okay. But I do choose to.
Okay.
Because like graduating with this, and we were laughing about it with my boys, it's like I would get job offers all over the United States with an IOM. But at my age, that's not why I took it. I don't want to go anywhere else. This is where I'm staying. My board was always afraid if I was educated more that I'd want to go somewhere else. I don't. But I do want to have that true knowledge behind what I do.
Okay.
It's like excellence. You want excellence in your workforce. Yeah. Even if we're tiny.
Yeah. You just want to make it better, and you're wanting to be better yourself. That's
and be able to teach that to the people that work with me. So that they will get interested in everything they do, doing it with excellence. We don't have that in all of our workplaces. Yeah. It's not just a job. If you can't make it fun and make it so interesting that your employees want to be there and feel their worth, then why are we doing it? Let's go do something different. Well, be a ski instructor. Which is not bad either. Although I have an injury as counting from skiing for the past 2 years, and it's okay. It'll be okay.
It sounds like it opens a lot of doors. Ski instructors.
And as one of my granddaughters says, because she doesn't like to ski, because she breaks fingernails or things when she falls. She's one of those.
In the snow?
It's just, she just doesn't like it. The rest of my grandchildren are avid skiers or snowboarders, but she likes to sit on the deck, with her camera and a little drink that has an umbrella in it, because that also causes you to get to meet young men.
Yes.
That's funny.
It's
still open stores.
So I have just one more question, then I'll let them ask.
Okay.
So you were talking. I mean, you did the class, and do you require like your employees and stuff like that to do like different like classes or CEUs, like stuff like that? Do you require them to kind of further their education and stuff like that?
Because of the fact that a chamber doesn't have that in the bylaws. Okay. Everything, you've got to go by the bylaws when you run a nonprofit organization. Okay. But I do give them opportunity if they want to do that. Okay. Then we will reimburse them. It is in our policies now for our staff policies and procedures. Okay. That if they choose to go, that we will help them. Okay. I have one staff member that we just got through sending her to learn advanced Excel. Okay. Because that was really important to her. Yeah. She felt like she would be able to do her job better, so she brought it and said, I want to do this. When we sent her to, it was like a weekend class, but there aren't CEUs per se for nonprofits, but yes, if anybody wants to better their working ability, I get them notaries for the girls that work in the office, and I have a guy too, can't discriminate. We get them certified to be notary publics. We get them certified to do whatever they feel like will help them. Okay. I was just curious because my mom works for a nonprofit, and so she's always having to do like certificates for counselors and stuff like that. And she's having she had to go to a kind of like a little fair kind of thing, and she has to I guess organize the where what is it called? The pretty much where the people go to get their CEUs, like they put conferences. The conferences, and so I kind of was a little bit familiar with that's why I was asking about CEUs and stuff like that. And it depends on what nonprofit they work for, what part it is, as to what the state and the federal government require. Okay. Because some of them, like if it's some sort of social working or something, they do require it. Yeah. A chamber doesn't require it. But I would even send any of my employees to IOM if they wanted to go. Okay. I think it's that important. Yeah. And I'm telling them now that I think they should go because I don't really think I want to be there when I'm 80. Right. Right. Yeah, you want them to be able to continue on the good what you've done for the place. I want them to continue to feel better and better about themselves. Yeah. So that they can continue to feel like they can do anything they want to do with excellence. Oh, awesome. Yeah. I was just curious about that. That's awesome. Good. Wonderful. I would love for them to continue whatever they want. Awesome. We'll let you guys go now, and maybe I'll think of something else I've been hogging. So
Taylor, did you want to start? Or do you want me to start?
Did you want me to ask one of the questions you had?
Let's move on to that afterwards. Okay. Actually, we of course read your application really, really thoroughly. Mm-hmm. We wanted to know everything that you had to say regarding these questions and stuff like that. There was an incident with one of your staff members that you said that she failed to show up for work. She was late. She basically didn't meet expectations of the job, and then you explained that you agreed to let her resign instead of being fired. We're wondering, why would you agree to do that instead of just firing her and getting rid of her? Right. She did meet expectations when she was there. Okay. She was very good at her job. She was a computer whiz. I mean, I let her loose on anything that was web related or Facebook, etc. And she was so good at it. Mm-hmm. She just had a problem, and this is very confidential. Yeah, I'm going to answer you very candidly. Yeah. She had a drinking problem. Oh. She's young. She was probably 23 years old. She had moved there to ski. And she worked in the restaurant at the resort at night, and then she worked for me part-time. Oh, she was busy. Yeah. And she
drank a lot at
Mhm.
night.
Mm-hmm.
And so she, only 3 times it happened because I only gave her 3 times. She would, the first time it happened, she didn't show up for work. She didn't call. I texted. I tried to get in touch with her around 3:30 in the afternoon when she woke up. She called me in tears and she was apologizing. She told me the truth,
Mm-hmm.
that she had been out the night before and that
Mm-hmm.
she felt bad about it, that she didn't want to lose her job. She was in charge of a lot of our events too,
Mm-hmm.
and she was very, very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as her personally, she has a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
But then it happened again,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her then, the 3rd time, don't call me
Mm-hmm.
because you've told me you'll be at work. It's the same as giving your word. You make a commitment when you take on a job or a class or.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to babysit for someone and you didn't show up because you've been drinking too much.
Right.
So the 3rd time, she knew she'd lost her job. But she came in to talk to me. And because I do believe that everybody has instances when they're not themselves.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And because I raised children,
Yeah.
I do know,
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah.
I would rather someone tell me the truth, though, than code it over, and she did tell me the truth. And she asked if she could resign because we are a tiny, tiny town.
Mm-hmm.
And had I fired her, she might not have been employable in Angel Fire. And that's really the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And because I liked her so much as a person, and because I knew she was just having a problem that she needs to get under control,
Mm-hmm.
and we discussed that. I gave her options, that I wouldn't tarnish that for her, and I felt good in that. It wasn't until what happened afterwards that was the problem for me.
You mentioned,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the rumors
Mhm.
spread all over town that she was a no-show and that you had fired her
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
you were alarmed.
Yeah.
Um,
So I
Okay.
emailed my board.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hadn't really shared with them that what goes on with my staff by our bylaws is not for a voluntary board.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the paid president, CEO of the company,
Yeah.
and I manage staff.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't any of their business, and there's like 9 of them, But I did feel like it was my responsibility when, to let them know that we had a position open and why. And I told them, that I had agreed to let her resign, that she had not shown up for work 3 times. Didn't tell them why.
Mm-hmm.
That was all I put. It was very short, very sweet. And within an hour and a half, it was all over town.
Wow.
And my board members are the ones that I reprimanded because they signed confidentiality agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not okay. And they're adults.
Mm-hmm.
They run their own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
That just wasn't okay. They turned the
Mhm.
person that did it turned my words around
Mm-hmm.
from the email they read
Mm-hmm.
and immediately started telling people that this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't, it should have stopped right there. Nothing
Yeah.
else should have been said. I just felt
Mhm.
like they needed to know.
Yeah.
But she did end up having, it caused her problems, much more than what should have ever come about it. Now, maybe if it would have been in a bigger city where I knew that she would have been able to get a job, it might have been a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't believe in ruining someone's life over
Mm.
wrong choices that they're making when they're
Mhm.
young
Mm-hmm.
or old, I guess.
Mhm.
I give a little more leeway when you're young.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
Because when you're older, you should know a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like this board member should have known better
Right.
than to do that.
Right.
And come to find out, it's just because he didn't like her.
Wow.
Wow.
And I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Mm.
You
So
know?
then, why did he get how did I know you said that everybody forgave him and everything like that. Why did you give him the same kind of leeway that you did?
I didn't.
You didn't.
I would have kicked him off the board right then.
Okay.
But I don't have that authority. The board of directors has that
Okay.
authority.
Okay. I was curious about that. I wasn't sure.
No, I would have fired him.
See you later.
Just,
Yeah, because that wasn't cool.
And I am the president of the board, but it's always a majority.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a majority.
Okay.
And I don't think I have sent an email out that was that strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Except when I did, and I didn't know who did it. But boy, I really was. I try not to write things when I'm angry. But it was not okay that within 2 hours it was all over town, and of course she even hears it, and she's already having a problem. So that's going to add to it.
Yeah.
And she didn't. She did leave Angel Fire because she couldn't get a job.
Wow.
And she lost her other job because of it. I mean, it was just, I was so mad.
Wow.
Yeah, you
so
put
mad
so
at
much
him
effort
because
into trying to save it,
and
give her a chance
Yes.
to let it happen however she.
Wow.
And if nothing else, I hope one day she remembers that somebody did care enough.
Where she would do the same thing for somebody
Yes.
else.
Yeah.
Right.
Trickle effect
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
But when and I didn't even use the names in the boardroom. You know, I told them it's been resolved, and I wasn't going to say anything. But he did stand up and tell them it was him, and offered to resign, and they didn't.
Right.
So I just have to go along with that.
Yeah.
You know, when you work with a team and a board, the majority rules.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Do you think that they didn't want to kick him out because he seemed sincere
Maybe,
enough?
maybe if it was
Probably.
the same sort of
Probably.
He was the chairman of my board, and still is until November 14th.
Counting down the
goodness.
days.
But he's also rerunning for my board.
Okay.
You know, so I won't know until right beforehand. But for me, because I've had to talk it out, it's amazing how much we talk with our children when we're older to get advice just as much as give it. But I talked with my boys about it, and you know, they were both like, "You got to give him the same thought process of forgiveness as you gave her, because being mad at him for a month is not okay." So, I'm dealing with it.
Yeah.
And he's a very prominent businessman in Angel Fire.
Wow.
So,
Sometimes they just get their way.
yeah.
Sometimes that's how it is if you have any
Yes.
sort of power.
Yes.
And it's sometimes a hard thing to witness, you know?
And he's very judgmental and opinionated. And I think he just felt like she should be reprimanded for what she did. You know, she's going out drinking and she's doing, sorry, but this
No.
and so, he felt like since I had handled it the way I handled it, well, he'd just take care of it.
Right.
And he did.
Wow.
And it was very sad to me. But do I think it was the right thing to do ethically? No. Do I think that he went against the confidentiality agreement that he signed? Yes. Do I think he should have been stricken off the board and people know why?
Yeah.
Yeah, because what if he does that to somebody else? But
Right.
I'm not his mama.
Right. Exactly.
And but I still work with him well.
Right.
Even if you don't like someone, you learn to professionally work with them.
Right.
Yeah, and I had a question about that as well. If you think the size of Angel Fire maybe makes it more difficult to uphold ethics sometimes, or if it makes it easier depending on the situation.
I think more difficult.
Is it more difficult?
I really do, because I've been in larger cities and worked with lots of different people, and there's always someone you're not going to get along with or believe they're the way that they think.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as because of the way I believe, I've made enemies in the political realm of it. I know one of the things is about our elected official, who happens to be our mayor, and it is because of the way I do business. It intimidates her, from what I gather and what I've been told. And she just doesn't, every turn she tries to get my job. I mean, for real.
Oh, she tries to.
And where I was raised and where I come from, there's lots of women who are so good at what they do, and they're so, they should be in positions of power. But usually, women who are smart and educated and who can get things done, we need to build each other up. We need to encourage one another. We need to push that person into success, not get jealous and try to break them down. I don't think that way, and I don't work that way, but I've run into a lot of it in the business world. A lot of it. And so this particular person, every time actually, if you look at every time I had a success, she would come against me with something. So I would just turn the other way. We'll do this then. Instead of doing this, if she wants that, we'll do this. And I did that for many years, and it wasn't until the first of this year she got upset with something that I did because it was successful, and that's the only reason. And she came against other businesses and other individuals overnight, and I couldn't sit back after that. When you start coming against other people, so I took a stand.
Has she done that
And
to
it was
other
very
people?
silly.
Yeah, it was. It looked like
She
it was
has
between
done
a lot.
A lot of people. Okay.
Yeah, well, she's an elected official, and she has 2 more years to serve. And the way the laws are written, you can't remove her from service. She's the kind of person that will look at you right in your face and lie to you, which I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And she is intimidated, I guess. I mean, people tell me all kinds of things because I can't understand why she does it. But she likes to hurt people's businesses. She likes to hurt them. And I'm not okay with that. Our little town is so small. We all have to play in the same sandbox.
Exactly.
And when you're in the sandbox and you have someone that's constantly trying to push you out of the sandbox, that's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
So even if I don't like her, I'm still going to treat her with the utmost respect and work with her professionally and never let anybody know, you guys know because this is confidential, but I would never let anybody know that I didn't think she did anything but the best job. I'm not going to say publicly anything against her positions or her job or what she does or how she thinks. I don't know how she thinks really. I'm not in her brain. But I do think it's very important that everybody try to work for the good of all of the businesses in a little town. It makes us more attractive to bring in more business if we're working together. And I don't mean to be disingenuous when I say that I would not talk against her publicly or come against her. I just mean that I think it's better for everybody in Angel Fire. But now when she publicly came against these businesses and individuals, I did take a stand.
You did take public.
I did.
Yeah.
Because she heard a couple of businesses. She tried to put them out of business.
Can I ask about her? I don't know anything about the politics of your town.
Right.
How was she elected exactly? Would you say that? I
I
don't know if she's a Democrat or Republican or whatever it is. If there's like majority, for example, Republicans in your city and they just voted her, like how was she elected?
She was elected because she has lots of money and influence and power. She married into a family that is, well, it happens in a lot of New Mexico villages and towns. I think the people that have the money and the influence is how. Yeah.
And they can break people pretty much.
They can.
That's the sad
and
part.
it's so sad because they want to. They want to. I mean,
my dad's in
I don't
construction,
understand that.
and I notice stuff like that with people that have a lot of power and a lot of money too.
Yeah.
They can really damage other
They
people that are
influence.
actually good people. It's just they're not as
And
Well,
and because this is so delicate for the three of you to even be hearing, that I would never tell anybody about a public official like that. But I mean, our whole government, everything's so volatile right now.
Yeah.
You know, that things that it is coming to the light that things are not being run like they should be run, except for bullying and hard nosing in a lot of instances all over the nation. So I think even that empowers some of our local elected officials to think that they can act that way.
I do wonder that. Like personally, you know, seeing what is going on with just U.S. politics in general, a big picture, that it empowers a lot of people with similar thoughts and ideas that they might have been suppressing for so many years. They're seeing it on a larger scale and saying, that's okay, I'm going to try that because look at how successful I can be.
Right.
And so that's why I was wondering if maybe you considered her to be kind of a case like that.
Yeah.
And it's sad. You see it in so many places. And I'm not saying, okay, she needs to go away. I'm saying we need to find a happy medium to be able to work for what is good for our community, you know, for our businesses, for our individuals, and not try to, ruin people's lives. I think that's part of where my chairman, you know, his mindset, because he's definitely kind of in that group. And he didn't even think that he might ruin this young woman's life, you know. And maybe the way that they think is, well, we've been here in Angel Fire for 25 or 30 years, and we don't want these people coming in. And you do hear a lot of that too. All the group, that group of people that don't want change, they don't want it to grow. They don't want a group of young entrepreneurs coming in because that messes up their retirement, quiet little thought process. When I think that's so wrong too. You know, I'm all for young entrepreneurs coming in and doing whatever they can to be able to live on the mountain that I think is so beautiful that I want to live there till I die. You know, everybody should have that opportunity. But there is a group, I call them the Anastasi, not to their faces, but they really just are grumpy old curmudgeons, and everything is wrong unless it's exactly the way they want it to stay.
Right.
And I find that really sad. I find it hurtful to a community. I find the young people can't wait to get away because of it, and they should be able to stay and build it up and raise their families there.
So why do you do so much for the community? Like, why do you feel like that they need you? Like it's your mission to, I guess, just no.
It's just who I am.
Just
who
you
are.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
It was a question I had, and I'm just curious. You've kind of answered it in a way, but you just
can't not do.
Can't not do it.
I guess. In
treat
any
others
job,
like you would want to be treated. That's neat.
I mean, you just can't not care about your position. Like I said, I don't want to ever just work a job because it's paying my paycheck. You know? And it's, if you don't really do it 100%, then why do it? I think. And make it fun. No matter what, make it fun.
I was reading about that tamale festival you guys had. That sounds
that was
totally
I love tamales.
That was my idea.
I was like, that sounds like so much fun.
That was one of the reasons she was mad, was because...
Is that what it was?
One of them. Because
one
we put
of
it together. It wasn't her idea. And it was so successful. It was incredible. It's fun.
That sounds like a blast.
It's called Obla Tamale.
When is it? When's the next one?
It'll be in August, the first weekend of August.
Oh, it's in August?
And there's tamale cook-offs. So you can go and buy tamale tickets, you know, to taste different tamales. And then you can vote for who you think has the best tamale. And then there's a tamale eating contest.
Oh my God!
Oh, it's the most gross thing.
I was gonna say that's gross.
Oh, it's.
Could you imagine people eating tamales
from New Jersey?
Oh
Oh my
to be in the
god.
tamale eating contest. But it's everything tamale. It's hilarious. Plus, there's a big festival. Well, this next year we're going national.
Yeah.
So the first day we're going to do the state cook-off like we do normally. The second day we've started, because it's been so successful, I've started reaching out to other states who have tamale cook-offs and asking their winners to come in, you know, and see if we can't have a national cook-off between the winners of different states. You know, kind of do that
That's
WrestleMania
awesome.
thing. Come
Nice.
on.
My dad watches that show, Barbecue Pitmasters. Have you
Uh-huh.
ever? That makes me think of that. You know, they're in this competition to make the best,
It's
you know,
hilarious.
barbecue. That's awesome.
And nobody else in New Mexico was doing it. It's why
How'd you
I
think
thought-
of it?
that's
How'd you think of
wow.
it? Just
I don't
crazy.
know how mine. I don't know. I just think
thought it would be
about things
fun,
like
and
that.
it just did
Yeah.
good. That's
Trying
awesome.
to, what can we do
Yeah.
to bring people in
in.
and put heads in beds? I mean,
Yeah.
as marketers, you'll learn that. It's called lodger's tax and heads in beds. And the whole deal from my marketing experience is how do we bring the outside world into this little
Yeah.
tiny paradise and have them go, wow, I'm coming back.
I'm gonna
And
buy a
then
house
everybody
here.
makes
You know,
money.
that's
Right.
cool.
And
Right.
you just have to think, I mean, it's constantly, and you'll be thinking of, I've run events
Mm-hmm.
and done that kind of thing all my adult career.
Mhm.
And it just, I was looking for something that New Mexico didn't have that might be a draw. And we immediately, when we decided to do it,
Mhm.
then we invited people from all over the state.
That's
Because our
neat.
first winner was from Santa Fe, right on
Wow.
there, you know, so it's a fun thing.
Yeah,
And
it is.
there's like different categories for tamales. There's a traditional, there's gourmet, there's vegetarian, there's dessert.
Wow.
I mean, you can taste all this.
I
That's
just was
That's
thinking
awesome.
about it, reading through your application, and I saw that that was mentioned where you said came up with it. It took me out of it for a second. I was thinking about
Well,
this tamale
And I
festival.
had also asked for lodger's tax grant money to put it on because we had to have money to advertise it.
Yeah.
And so I actually had somebody make me a plate of tamales because you go before panel.
So you could go
Yeah.
pass them around.
The first time I went in and I had a plate of tamales and I wore the big sombrero, you know, pulled down and had, you know, dressed the part, walked in their meeting room going,
That's so funny.
Awesome.
It was so funny. But you do what you have to do when you're a marketer.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And then everybody goes,
Wow.
oh, well, this is maybe fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that sounds
So
like
is that-
you need ideals for those things.
Yeah, definitely.
So is that how you got out of the deficit? You mentioned like there was a
Mm.
deficit when you'd first gotten there. You've done stuff kind of like that to
Actually,
gradually.
like that, I had to be real stern. I did way deep cuts
Okay.
because you can't write a budget for negative $20,000,
Mhm.
although they approved it. And that was my first idea that something was wrong with the mindset.
Yeah.
You know, how do you do that? I've never been in a company that somebody would do that. And so I had to go over the budget really, you know, tooth and nail
Yeah.
and think, what can we cut? And the real truth, the first thing I cut was the gas.
The gas?
Yes. We have propane gas up there. We don't have gas lines. We have propane gas.
Oh.
And I had experiences of being a very poor at the beginning of my marriage, and gas costs more than electricity. So we used to use little electric heaters, you know.
Yeah.
So I went back to that mindset, and I looked at the bills. We were paying $6,000 a year for gas to heat our little offices.
Mhm.
$6,000 a year. So I cut the gas off and brought in little electric heaters.
I can just see an angel fire. Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, I had the board members argued with me,
Uh-huh.
you know, at that point, and they thought it was ludicrous. And I had one guy bring me a bag of coals and put it on my desk and call me screwed.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, you know what? I got little heaters under the tables for the
Yeah.
girls and the staff and me, and said, you know, you'd much rather layer up. We live in a ski town where your unders wear whatever you want. You can come in your ski pants. I don't
Coveralls,
care.
whatever.
Yeah.
But we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah.
And I shaved $6,000 off of that budget the very first year because of it.
Wow.
And those electric heaters, it's like after the joke and the novelty wore off and everybody in town thought I was insane, the little lumber yard donated to us this really awesome Amish heater that looks like a fireplace.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Nice.
And
before.
I mean, it heats.
Yeah.
Nice.
So my electricity bill using the electric heaters in 3 offices went up maybe $25 a month, and then we saved the bulk of the $6,000.
It's
Nice.
expensive.
And we
Yeah.
still use the electric heaters.
Nice.
But in
a
our
lot cheaper.
storeroom,
Those are good.
Yeah.
we put a quilt up every year. It's our same little quilt. So if you go into the storeroom, you have to put on your gloves and your goggles and all that because it's cold.
It's cold.
Yeah. Oh,
But it's
that's
a
awesome.
ritual when we put the quilts up,
Nice.
because it's like, okay, it's getting cold.
Yeah.
But that's
Awesome.
just, and then we have fans that we use instead of air conditioning in the summer. And it's like, okay, you bundle up in the winter and you can come as scantly as professional in the winter or in the summer. So
Yeah.
it
Well, it
works
doesn't
out
get as
really
hot
good.
there. Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't get as hot
You
as it
know?
does here, though.
Yeah.
No, well, and we're also in a resort town.
Yeah.
So my philosophy about letting everybody wear shorts in the office or whatever is comfortable is the fact that my job is better than your vacation. So,
Aw,
and that's what
awesome.
we do. I only ask them to dress up if we have a board meeting or
Yeah.
something's going on,
Mhm.
that they need to, or if we're going to meetings or, but it's very casual. And
Nice.
people, we're pet friendly, we're children friendly.
Aw.
If somebody can't get a babysitter, then they can bring them to work. I myself have pet sat for some people.
Aw.
It's the workplace is casual, and why
That's
not?
neat.
We're a
People
tourist-
enjoy that.
We're a
People like
tourist
casual.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like family.
Yeah,
You don't
that-
feel like you're actually at
That
work.
creates a really good work environment
Yeah.
for sure.
And so that's kind of what we do.
That's neat.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
really cool
Thank
that you
you.
do that.
Awesome.
I've never
Yeah.
seen many people that do that. That's
I know.
very unusual, but that's very
I'm-
neat.
That's quite unique.
Yeah.
I do know I've been told that a lot. But yeah,
Awesome.
I started with the hard parts.
Okay.
And I also, there were some insurances that we had that I thought we could do better. I shopped around, a lot of our equipment in the office. You have contracts with different business companies, like our printers and our internet, even our website, browsers. I did a diligence for 6 months shopping around to get better prices, not keep it just because, we've had that for 30 years.
Yeah, just because
And, it's time to upgrade. And things like that I could really make a difference. And then I started going out for membership. When I took over, our little chamber had I think we had 45 members. Now we have over 200.
Wow.
And I went
Wow.
out and recruited. That was a lot of it, was recruiting.
How did you find the money to pay their salaries and things, or were they volunteers?
Oh no, the membership is who pays us money.
Oh, the members. I see.
I went
You're not
and
talking
recruited
about.
members to
Okay.
bring in
Okay.
dues
Nice.
money.
Mhm.
So it went from like a 50 people due base to 200 members now.
Okay. Nice.
So
nice.
that also brought us out. You know,
Nice.
the first year I was there, I brought in probably 75 new members in our small little area.
That's cool.
And then so then it's like, okay, so we've hit the peak of most of the businesses in Angel Fire that are members. So I started looking out, and it took me 2 years to talk the board into doing it. Boards are slow to come around. But it's like there's all these other little chambers that are struggling around us. Eagle Nest, which is teeny tiny. They don't even have one paid person on staff. So they try to keep it open. Cimarron, who is pretty much the same. Red River has a pretty good base, but I started looking at all that and had to get approval from the board first. But when I finally did, I went to all these other little chambers and their boards and said, let's work together. And at first, everybody thinks, well, you're going to take our business. But the whole bottom line is I suggested we do a chamber-to-chamber membership, which if somebody is a member in good standing in Eagle Nest or Red River or Taos or Cimarron or Raton or any of the other little towns close to us or in our county, then they can join my chamber for $100 a year and get all the same benefits as any of the other members. But I want it to be reciprocal, meaning that if one of my chamber members wants to join your chamber for $100, then you would honor that. And it took a little while for it to get off the ground, but now it's awesome. We have lots of reciprocal chamber-to-chamber members all over our area, the Enchanted Circle area, and in our county. And I also offered an associate business membership, which means if you have a full membership with us as a business and you have another business that you do on the side, which a lot of people up there have to survive, then they can join as an associate member also for just $100 a year and get the same benefits. So I brought in a bigger base that way to help offset. You just have to always be creative.
Yeah, that's
you know, and think how do you then broaden it? So now I've even helped start because of that. We've got what's called in the beginnings the Colfax County Chamber of Commerce Coalition, which now we're going to go after the county and try to get money. I'd like to see us as a line item on the county for the tiny little chambers in our little bitty towns that may not be able to stay open because of it. You know, so just being creative. And I finally got us out of the deficit, but we're not high out of it.
Yeah.
You know, if we were at a budget that says we were at $2,000 in the black, we celebrate.
Yeah, of course, I imagine.
It's like
yeah.
You just have to be creative.
Awesome.
Yeah, especially when you don't have money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I just started this 12 Days of Christmas deal last year, and they thought I was crazy when I went to the board about that. I don't know if I put anything on that, but it's called the 12 Days of Christmas. And I wanted us to be able to do something that didn't cost us any money and that we could promote and make money. So I came up with 12 Days of Christmas, and I tell it to my board, and I'm like, next thing we're going to do is we need 78 gifts donated to us. They have to be at least $50 a piece.
Oh.
And, you know, we want 78 of them, and we're going to put them together and give things away, and the grand prize is going to be $500. And I want you to go get it. And they were like,
whoa.
You are absolutely out of your mind.
Whoa.
But the way it works is, and it went like ABBA. It went over so well. We're in the process of getting our gifts right now, and people are just bringing them in. It's so fun.
Whoa.
So the first day, we drew names. People bought raffle tickets. Since all the gifts were donated, we didn't pay a penny. And all of the raffle tickets, we sold them 1 for $10 or 3 for $20. We made $6,000 off of those raffle tickets. But the first day we drew, and we did it live on Facebook, so it's so dorky, and everybody loved it. But we always drew live. Yeah. So the first day we drew 12 raffle tickets. So 12 people got a prize that was at least $50. The first 12 were 12 massages. A lady donated 12 massages.
Whoa.
And the next day we drew 11, 10, 9. But every one of the gifts were worth at least $50. Most of them more. Wow. And then the big grand prize was $500 cash.
That is genius.
And it's called the 12 Days of Christmas. And it went over so well when we first put it out in October to start getting more, for this year. People just started showing up at the chamber going, here's what I want to give. And because it was so much fun. Everybody, who wouldn't spend at least $10, maybe $20 for something that's worth that much? There were overnight stays in Santa Fe. We had some really great gifts. One of those, what do they call it, Yetis? Yeah. The ice chest. We gave a Yeti away, and
those are pricey.
Everybody got all excited. I didn't know what it was. I was like, this is an ice chest. They were like, it's a Yeti.
Wow.
What is a Yeti?
Nice.
$400
Yeah, they're really pricey.
And they were all, I mean, people even started coming to the chamber for when we were doing our live remotes, and it was
Wow,
hilarious.
that's awesome.
But I get the board members, or we're talking about doing remote lives now, like going to someone who gave a gift and remoting at their place. I don't know. You can do it with your phone. It's not a big deal. Only I didn't know, and you may not know this, if you start doing a video and you turn your phone during the video, you can't fix it. It'll turn your video sideways on YouTube, you know, or wherever. I didn't know that. So I was doing it this way and thought, oh, it'd be better if I turned it sideways. And so I turned it in the middle of it, and all these people that are listening, you watching, well, you're sideways. So you turn it back this way, it doesn't matter. It won't straighten back up. But that was our most watched video because it was the dorkiest. And they loved it. Yeah. I mean, it was like awesome. We had more people keep going back and watching that particular one, too. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. If you're not afraid to make yourself vulnerable and look like an idiot and have fun,
what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry, I got way off track.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
A great idea.
Nice.
I don't know why they don't trust me more every time.
Oh, they do.
I was gonna say
they do now.
Yeah.
Believe me, they do. But it's like they still look at me like, we're gonna do what? I'm like, oh yeah, and they're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. But yeah, they do now. They'll do it.
That's good. You've earned it. Those are some great ideas.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And you know, we share them. All chambers share our ideas, so everybody kind of uses whatever. I started. You know how you do a flash mob?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I started. This was years ago that I did this one, and now it's happening in chambers all over the place. Because I would share it when I went to school. You know, it's called Cash Mob.
Yeah.
And instead of a flash mob, it's Cash Mob. And so I sent out an e-blast and asked all our members to sign up to be a mobber or a mobbee. Mm-hmm. And if you're a mobbee, that means that you want your business to be mobbed. And a mobber, you sign up to go whenever we make the call that we're going to do the Cash Mob, that you'll go to this business and spend at least $20.
No way.
Yeah. And so we had like 85 people sign up to be mobbers. So if you think $20 for 85 people in this little business that doesn't make much business, and we did it in the off season, so that's the time when nobody's there and they need money. And so we went in, and I would call them. It's not like we just showed up, because I would call and say we pulled all of the mob bees. We pulled their name out of the hat. So we just put everybody's name in that wanted to be mobbed. So we'd pull their name out, and we'd call them and say, we got your name. We're going to cash mob you this week. And they'd get all excited. But we'd say, what time do you want us to come and what day? You know, and then we'd put that out. We texted all of the mobbers and said, we're calling a flash cash mob, so-and-so place at certain time. Spend at least $20. It was so phenomenal. Wow. That we do it every year now, and we've been doing it for about 5 years now.
So that's really got to help out those small
Cash
businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had one little bead shop that when I went back in, she was just crying. She said, I had a $2,800 day, and I've never had anything over $1,000 day. And I was like, that's why we do it.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, all those fun things that you can do. But,
I know I worked for a privately owned business, and it was one guy that owned it and 7 employees. It was retail store, and I know that when we had a day that was like $2,000,
everybody
it was insane, and the owner was just so happy and so excited, and especially in the winter, or if there was like a festival, if there was Christmas or some other time, and he made $2,000 or $3,000, and that means the world. It's a huge deal.
And from that first year, the ones that got mobbed, they even started signing up to go. I mean, if you think about somebody who has a small business and they don't make much and they can't pay an employee, they're the only ones there working 7 days a week. For them to spend $20 every week somewhere. You know, or we'd usually do it every other week, and we'd just kind of surprise, like a flash mob surprise, because it was hard for people then to spend that money somewhere else. But most of the time, you spend more than $20 if you're going to get into somebody's business. You'll find something for everyone. I know we did a restaurant. It was a little pizza place, Angel Fire Pizza, and I ran up during the time I was going to, have a pizza, and finding something on the menu that was $20 was impossible. So I bought a take home to have the next day too. But they don't normally get a $20 ticket.
Yeah.
So for everyone that went in to spend $20, and then all of the waiters and waitresses that got tipped that night too, they all made more money. So it's just to try to think of something that's good for everyone, and people make money. If you care about people, it comes natural.
Yeah.
I tell that to my boys. If you really care and your idea of being a success is making somebody else succeed or helping someone else succeed, then everybody wins.
Right.
That's awesome.
And you have to live it. We do live it. I live it. My kids live it, I hope.
I'm sure they do.
I should bring Marcus in with me.
Well, you've kind of already answered this, even just through how you've answered and just the tone of everything. But just what are your personal values, and just like how that reflects maybe not only in the workplace but in your personal life, or if it kind of overlaps?
Oh, it does overlap. I mean, you have to live it. It's not because I set out to, have value in the workplace or integrity or work with ethical thought process. If it's not really who you are, it doesn't come through. I don't think. I think you have to have it as a personality trait.
Yeah.
And if it's not a born-in personality trait, then work at it. Make sure it is. I mean, I was told a story just a couple of days ago that made me wonder. There was a friend that was a passenger in a pickup with a young lady driving, and she had her blinker on to turn to the left. And this is Angel Fire, so you have to think. This young lady then looked over and went, "Oh, there's a whole herd of elk. Let's go look at them." And so she pulls over. Well, she doesn't know there's a car right here. She doesn't see the other car right here. So she almost has a wreck. But they're kind of at a standstill, and he rolls his window down, and their window was already down. I'm being told this by the passenger and who's doing this, So the man in this car is hollering because she had her blinker on to go the other way, and she split seconds started lying to him and arguing with him and saying, no, she didn't. She was turning that direction all along. He was in the wrong, and da-da-da-da. So they had this little tit for tat going on for a little while. She was so aggressive to this gentleman, or so I was told, in her continuing to lie about the situation, that this guy finally apologized to her. That, maybe he saw it wrong. Maybe he was really in the wrong. And so when it's all over and said and done, she says to my friend, my friend said, well, that was a horrible thing for you to do, or something like that. And she said, well, I panicked. I just panicked. And so the conversation was somewhat, so when you panic, you're going to tell a lie to make yourself, feel better, look better, get out of the situation. And she goes, well, do you think I just should have told the truth? And he said, yeah, yes. Probably wouldn't have upset the gentleman as much if you would have just said, oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to see the elk. But instead of making up this whole brutal lie. And so that even made me think, when I was told that story, how everybody thinks differently. That in a panic situation like that, would your first thought be to lie about a situation or just tell the truth? It's so much easier to just tell the truth, to me. So I think it's either your nature or not. Because we did have that ethics conversation, because this person was like, I just experienced this, and I didn't quite understand why she immediately just felt like she had to lie. And and then saying that it's because she panicked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure a lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I mean, maybe I don't even know the answer. Is it? Are we born with that? Are we raised with it? Or we just have that personality characteristic?
Mm-hmm.
I just
I
took
don't
an exam
know.
yesterday that was about motivation, personalities, and beliefs, and it was about the nature versus nurture, and like if you're born with it, or if you feel like society, makes you who you are and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And that's funny that
I
you
think
said
it's
that, and I just
interesting.
took an
It's
exam
very,
on that.
it's very interesting. I mean, I think a lot of what goes on in our world, it is learned behavior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is learned behavior. But then I think a lot of it may be personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, me and my brothers and sisters all have very, very different personalities and very different views. More so even than our mom might have. But the majority of my brothers and sisters do have value in doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have one that maybe not, but
We've all got that.
yeah. Yeah. So
So do you think
Uh-huh.
when somebody's put in a really like tense situation, or like it's kind of like what you were saying, like she panicked,
mm-hmm.
do you think the true individual comes out
Or
in
the
somebody?
nature.
Like they really,
I think so.
yeah,
And I hate to be judgmental too, though.
yeah.
To look at her and think, wow, that's how you would answer in a situation where you felt panicked.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe.
But everybody makes mistakes too.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, I've made such wrong choices in my
Oh
life.
yeah.
I can't tell you. When I'm mostly younger, lots of wrong choices. That's why I do empathize with young people who are going through making their own choices for the first time in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
We all go through that. And if we're not empathetic with someone, then how are we going to live with ourselves as to what kind of influence we had on that person, even in a split second?
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Too.
Yeah.
That's,
And I think we as humans, I think, have a tendency to associate with a group, whether it's political or religious or a million different kinds
Mhm.
of groups, and make our decisions based on what maybe the group mentality is.
Mhm.
And you see that in politics all the
Yes.
time. We're very partisan,
yes.
especially at the moment. And I'm sure
Yeah,
working where you're working, you see a lot of people that only follow the herd
Oh,
and don't make their own decisions in terms of
Exactly.
ethics and things like that. And I'm wondering, like, have you come across situations like that where you felt like people are only following
mhm,
kind of the group herd?
mhm.
Have you been in a situation like that yourself?
Yes.
And where do your ethics come out? And where is the
Exactly.
border for
Well,
that
I mean,
with you?
there's a lot of times when I think fear drives that kind of a situation. I want to say don't you, but I actually was put in that kind of a situation in a job that I had when I was probably in my 30s.
Mhm.
I was recruited as a marketer by another marketer that I knew who was very successful in her position. And I wanted to work with her because, like I said, I'm all for empowering women to succeed and be the best that they can be. Men too, but more so women.
Yeah, right.
I think we should build
understand.
each other up and lift each other up. And
Yeah.
she did something that was totally wrong. I was party to it. I saw it.
Yeah.
And about a week later, she came to me and was panicked and told me a story that I was supposed to tell to our owners if they ever asked me of what really happened, but it wasn't what happened.
Oh.
And that she expected me, because she had gotten me the job,
Mm.
that I would say that this is what happened.
Mhm.
She versed it to me over and over and over
Mhm.
because she could have really been in a lot of trouble
Mhm.
had I said what really happened.
Mhm.
And she made me very afraid
Mhm.
of my job,
Mhm.
of my position, of what was going on. It really
Mhm.
was right around the time that my husband had passed away too. So I needed my job I needed my job.
Mhm.
She was very high powered in that marketing world, so the majority of everybody, of course, they were going to do and say whatever she said they needed to do and say. So, I mean, I spent the next week in fear going to work. My palms, I was in fear, thinking, oh, they're going to call me, or they're going to ask me this, and, you know, all of this, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do what she says. She's my boss, immediate boss. And long story short, I never heard from anybody, and I thought, you know, I'm so far down on the totem pole, they're not going to ask me anyway, so I'm fine. And we were doing events for doctors, senators and doctors, and it was a huge event that I was in charge of. And I'm doing a presentation, and I look up and I see the CEO, and I was in Lubbock and they were in Fort Worth, Dallas. I see the CEO walk in the back. I see the vice president. I mean, all of the owners to this business walked in while I'm doing this presentation. Hadn't thought about any of that in a long time. And I mean, just to get through with what I was doing, because I knew it was coming. I was like, oh my gosh. And sure enough, when I finished my presentation and things were going on, and one of them walked up and said, you know, we want to talk to you. And he looked me right in the eyes and said, it was quite visible, the difference in your countenance when we walked in the door. And I mean,
wow.
And so they sat me down, all of them, and asked me, this is the story that we were told. This is what she says happened. We know you were there. What happened? And I mean, I think that was a turning point, because I told them the truth.
Yeah.
She lost her job.
Yeah.
I got blackballed from a lot of that particular marketing crowd. I got threats from her. I mean, she called me every name in the book. How dare you? You've ruined my career.
Oh yeah, blaming you.
But so I think when you're put in that kind of situation, my fear for weeks was, can I live with myself if I tell her story? You know, I'm glad to know I can't. But I think because I needed my job so much, and I was prepared to get fired and find another job if I had to, and single mothers who were put in that same situation, do I think that they would lie to keep that position if they felt like that was what they had to do? I think so. Right after that, I put a plaque up, and I have it in my office today. If you ever come see me, you'll see it. It says, "What would I do if I weren't afraid?"
Yeah.
And every time I get afraid, I'm like, And it is. Yeah. It's sad that we put fear into each other and say, you have to follow us, or this is the mentality, and if you don't follow us, you're going to be blackballed. And it happens. You do get blackballed. I eventually had to change jobs. It was so bad. I mean, they offered me a job in Fort Worth, but I didn't want to move to Fort Worth.
Right.
So I had the good graces of the people that I worked for, but not the people I worked around.
Right.
Because I was the one that got her fired.
Right. Wow.
So that was like your kind of your boss.
She was she was the head of marketing.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
That's
wow.
Very
That would be terrifying. That would be so terrifying.
It was terrifying. Yeah. But even then, I mean, I planned to tell them the lie. I was working it over in my mind the whole time.
And that's that again with the panic.
I couldn't.
Your true nature.
I mean, you were going to probably be in trouble either way, is what you were probably thinking. Yeah. And what was going to be the least, the less
lesser of two evils.
Yeah, less of two evils. That's
and
not
probably
a good.
It would have been, the lesser would have been to lie about it, because then I would have been okay in my work situation.
Right.
But
it could have kept going from
when
there.
It came out,
she probably
could
have kept asking you to lie for her.
I believe that she probably would have if that's her character.
Yeah.
And I there's all kinds. So it's, I don't know. Are you born with it? Are you? Do you learn it? Is it just who you are? It all comes down to what can you live with.
Yeah.
Within your own self.
Right.
Yeah.
Who are you behind closed doors?
Right.
You know.
Right.
Are you the same person?
Yeah. Wow. And that all ties in with the situation with the mayor, I think. It seemed like, well, in a position that you have, it seems like you are kind of susceptible
Mhm.
to criticism and to people that don't agree with you. So I was going to have Taylor ask this, but I would like to hear a little bit more elaboration about that conflict with the mayor. I'm asking because you detailed it quite a bit in your summary, and 2 of your 3 references also mentioned it as well.
Yeah, in my references?
Yeah,
but they mentioned
it
that
was
you
mentioned
they mentioned how you handled it.
Yeah,
and just how it was.
It was
how it
mentioned
was
by Heather and by Wendy.
Wow.
Both mentioned it and said that that you handled it very well.
Very well.
But it's just an incident that we're all very curious about
and
because it seems to be well known.
Yes, and it is a problem that we have to, not a problem that we have to address, but we do have to address in a certain section ethical dilemmas and how you've dealt with them, and this seems like a very prominent and recent one. So just as far as like, because you did explain it to an extent, but just as far as the background on how it all kind of got started,
I
and
think,
then how it was
like what I've already shared with you, for some reason, this particular mayor, this person, we were work friends prior to, like, I don't really know where my ideals come up from.
Yeah.
I'm a creative person, and the more that I would do that was successful, it seemed like it put a gap between us. She, instead of her celebrating, she would get angry with me.
So would you say it was kind of seeming like a little bit of like jealousy
and
of your
I hate
success?
to say that. I really didn't know. I don't know what the reality of why she all of a sudden didn't like me. There was a lot of things in the state when I was first marketing our area, and when you're new, you don't know if you're stepping on someone's toes when you do something. Angel Fire was in a tourism district with the ranching district and the rodeo district of Colfax County. We're Alpine. We don't have rodeos. We don't have any, we don't have that. We were bordering the ski Alpine tourism district, which is Red River and Santa Fe and Taos and Pajarita, and all of those were all in the same tourism district.
Yeah.
Well, all of our money that went to the tourism district of Colfax County, that in itself, I thought was a waste of our money. That why weren't we in with the Alpine group? And so I asked the board if I could go to the state tourism directors and the Secretary of State and ask, well, can we be moved?
You wanted to know the facts.
Yeah, can we be moved? So I did a PowerPoint, and I was all ready to go, and I presented it to the powers that be in tourism to get us moved. And we did get moved. It took a while, but we did get moved. That offended her, that we would take that on and do that instead of putting her name on it. And the truth is, I don't care whose name's on something. If she wants her name on it, that'll be fine. But that was one of the first times that I really felt professionally that I had maybe stepped on her toes, and she didn't appreciate it. So I think that's, for background, that may be what started. So then when we had Obla and it was so successful, she didn't promote it. She didn't want the village to promote it because she didn't think it was a good thing. And then I would hear in public, people would come to me and say, well, she's saying this and this and this. And you just try to turn the other cheek. And, so when she got upset about the tourism thing, then I said, well, then what we will do, we will allow, because she wanted the village to be the only one promoting tourism, which is ludicrous. Everybody needs to promote tourism. But I asked the board, I said, well, then let's go this direction. We'll go more to the ACI area and the commerce and the industry and businesses. And we will not, I'll not, do these. In fact, I sat on the board of the tourism board here in the state. And when she got elected mayor, she went to them and told them that she wanted that board seat, and she took my board seat.
Wow.
And I was like,
No matter what you do,
Yeah,
it just
so I'm
makes
like,
her
okay.
mad. Yeah.
I'll just do this and do this. And so that went on for years. And I didn't make it public. I never spoke out and said never. You just don't do that professionally. You don't. It makes you look bad.
Yeah.
So this one that happened, though, last year or the year before, I was made the president of the board of our art council, which is Art Up Northern New Mexico. All of our artists are displaced. We have a lot of artists up there, but they're very displaced. So my first thought was, let's try to raise the money and open an art center.
Mhm.
And then everybody can co-op it, and we'll just open a little art center.
This is recent, right?
Yes.
You had mentioned,
Mhm.
okay, that's
Yes,
what I thought.
so this is the beginning. I just did the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I thought. I remember
Okay.
reading that this is
And
recent.
so we went to work trying to raise money to open an art center. We had a huge gala. We painted chairs and furniture for, we did auctions.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time. Our art community had been so fragmented because none of them could afford to have studios that were open, and sell their art. So everybody got really excited about the fact that we were going to put together and try to open an art center. We had enough backing that overnight I could have pulled in a couple of $100,000 from different backers, and we found the building that we had talked the people into. It used to be an old lumber yard, and so I could see this would be perfect. We could have outside stuff. We could do this. And there's not much property in Angel Fire, but it used to be our little lumber yard.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to them and talked to them. Well, they were going to sell us the whole thing at 6 acres. I mean, that was parking. That was everything. It was big enough where we could turn it into really cute. We had an architect that did the plans for us for free. And, I mean, we've been working on it behind the scenes for a couple of years. So we were going to purchase that building for $300,000. Couldn't have done anything better. We thought it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So we had an Art Up board meeting and had voted and made the decision where we're going to put the money. We're going to actually buy that building tomorrow. And tomorrow came, and I went to purchase the building, and somebody had already purchased it that morning. Like 2 hours before I got there. Nobody knew we were going to buy it that day, except who was in the board meeting, which is a different group than my chamber board. It's a bunch of artists. And anyway, so the building had been bought out from under us, truthfully. And we didn't know who bought it because there's an ethical thing with the real estate that they don't tell you who's got a bid in on it because it takes 30 days, all that. So this was in November of last year. After the 30 days, we find out the mayor is the one that bought the building. They didn't have it in the budget. They had never talked about buying the building. There was no reason for them to buy that building, but our tax dollars were going to pay for it.
Wow.
And she did it illegally, but she's covered herself since then because she went and bought it without having council approval, which is illegal. But she did get them to sign off on it before it was paid for. So somebody in our board meeting told her that we were going to buy that building the next day, and she went and bought it.
Wow.
She didn't, I guess she didn't want it to have my name, which it wouldn't have, but she didn't want that. So then she calls us, or she has someone call us, and they're in town. Our little town hall is probably, it's fallen apart. It's a horrible little building. But her idea was that if she bought that building, or this is what I was told, if she bought that building, then it would force us into her building because she could then say the village put together the art center, and she would get to move into this other building that was really expensive and nicer for the village offices.
I see. Okay.
And it would have her name on it. And so we sent a group over, you know, because we were kind of in shock, but we sent a group over to look at the building, and it, you know, we couldn't afford to fix it. The art group would never be able to fix it. So we nixed it overnight. Well, our next board meeting, which was in January, there was a all-out conversation that got a little bit heated. Every one of those women and men had signed confidentiality agreements. But everybody wanted to know what happened.
Yeah.
The people who were going to put the money on it called me in and said, why would she buy that building out from under the art group if we were going to put the art center there? And I'm like, I don't have any answers for you. I do not know that. I have no answers. So in the board meeting, I gave them the synopsis. This is what happened. And the day I went to buy it, somebody had already bought it. Then we found out the mayor bought it. And then our money backers said, why would she buy that building out from under you? Two of the other artists, one of them said, I don't want that village. I wouldn't vote for us to move into that village office. I worked there 10 years ago, and it should have been bulldozed back then. Another one said, well, I just don't trust her. Those are the only things that were really said. But once again, that night, somebody called her and told her that I said she bought the building out from under us, and that so-and-so said derogatory this and derogatory that. So by 9 o'clock the next morning, she had instructed, she sent an email, I saw the email, she sent an email out that told all staff to cease and desist doing business with the Chamber of Commerce, that they were not to promote any of our events, especially Alba Tamale, which was the next one coming up. And then she had them take all of the artwork of these two artists out of the visitor center, out of any building in town, get rid of the rack cards, never promote them, we will put them out of business. And that's all that truthfully was said. Although, however she got it, she thought, you know, and that's when the emails came out, and actually Heather was one of them, and Heather's husband got so upset because the guy at the visitor center sent out the email saying you have to come and take your artwork out, and we can no longer promote your business because the mayor says that last night at a public meeting you said derogatory stuff. Well, it was a private meeting, and they didn't really. I mean, if I can't say I don't trust her,
yeah, that's not.
She's an elected official, but that really nobody said anything derogatory.
Yeah.
The worst of it was she thought that I said she bought the building out from under us when I was just saying what he said. She did buy it out from under us. It's true. But she didn't want anybody in town to know any of that stuff. But it blew up in her face because it got so big. And Heather's husband went down and asked for public record emails. So all of these emails were made public with her saying the things that she said. Then my board came in, and my chamber board, and said, why is the chamber named when it was an art up meeting? I said, I have no idea. Why were you named? I have no idea. But this, you know, I asked all of my board, can I tell them what was said? Because we were confidential. They said yes. So I told the board. Well, then my board backs me. Because they don't like the fact that she's coming against our events and our business. And if she's coming against the chamber, that's every business in town. And so they sent me to talk to the state attorney and ask him, which I asked several people to talk with me, you know, what legally was our course and what should I do or shouldn't I do. He said probably because she's a powerful elected official, you should just suck it up and back up and let her do whatever she wants because she'll win in the end. It always happens that way. And then I had another person tell me the same thing, that they had gone through it and that normally, you know, you're going to end up the one that's defaced and hurting over it. So I went back and told the board, and they decided to take a stand because they didn't, you know, they said, she can't fire you. you know, we don't get money from the village. She can't fire you. We won't let that happen. And so we took a stand at village council, and first thing though, a couple of our board went over to talk to her. They had already seen the emails.
Yeah.
And they said, you know, this is what we've heard that you've said. And she goes, I don't know where you got that idea. We'll work together. We'll do this. We'll do that. Well, then as soon as they left, she writes another email that comes into our possession because it's an open axe.
Yeah.
And she's writing it to the council, telling them how she handled these people and not to worry that, you know, she'd gotten it over on them.
Well, did she realize that it's on public record? And
She
you guys
doesn't care.
Oh.
She really doesn't care. And so she didn't show up to the meeting that my council spoke at.
Yeah.
She just wasn't there. And so they wrote a letter asking for an apology to each one of the businesses, the artists that were involved, and the art up in the chamber and da-da-da-da-da. And her remark was, I have nothing to apologize for. And that was it. And so that, you know, to handle it, but these things I don't say publicly. You know, I do not say these things about her publicly.
Yeah.
If somebody reads their emails, then that's fine. If they get their own opinion, that's fine. But the way I handled it was with the thought process of, I don't want to destroy somebody else's life. I just don't want her to be able to destroy these other people's. I want us to work together. I want us to be professional. I don't want to be disingenuous, like I told you before, but there's got to be a stop somewhere. And it had to stop. It was like, this is the icing on the cake. And we still don't have a place. You know, we put the art center on the back burner because the artists were also upset. And now the building that she bought,
It's just
she
sitting.
turned it into a trash dump
Oh,
in the middle of town. It's a trash dump.
Gosh.
I mean, it's I can see the building from my office every day, and I don't know this, but I think she did it just because I see it out my window every day. And so we even have people say, oh yeah, the art center that's now a trash dump.
Oh my gosh, that's
It's
so
a-
sad.
It's a very...
It's a nice building, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great little building, but that's...
$300,000 dump.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
A building that we didn't need, that we're all paying for with our tax dollars.
To Harbor Drive.
That's now a more convenient trash dump instead of going all the way out. Yeah.
Man, what a bummer.
And I even feel strange, you know, saying things about her because I don't like it.
Yeah.
But you do have to finally stand up and say, enough is enough. Did I demand that she make the public apology? No. Does she ignore me in meetings and in public? Yes. Do I think that's being fifth grade? Yes. Do I think we should be able to talk as professionals and work no matter what, work around it? Have I wanted to walk into her office and slam the door and put a bottle of wine down and say, what is wrong here? You know, yes. But do I think that would ever happen? No.
Yeah.
Different people have very different personalities and ethical
Right.
ways of conduct.
Right.
And you've tried as hard as you can to make everything work, and she just doesn't care.
And that may be
So
why
sad.
if people that gave reference referred to it, because, they knew I was struggling with all of it, but still trying to do the right thing for everybody involved without just calling her out in public.
Yeah. And that's what was
Yeah.
reflected in what they said. They said that you've handled it extremely
Yeah,
well,
right.
given the circumstance,
Yeah.
especially with it
Well,
being
that-
such a
and,
personal
that makes
The
me
thing.
overall
feel good.
consensus
Yeah.
It makes me feel
seems to
really
be,
good.
I don't know what it is, if the overall consensus seems to be that she's not too popular. That she might have
not right
gotten
now. She's
elected for maybe the wrong reasons because
Yeah.
of power and because of things like that.
But
She doesn't seem popular.
Until this came out, though, nobody knew because
Okay.
usually, you don't talk about all of that.
She's all sunshine and
yes.
rainbows and
Mhm. Well, she lies.
Mm.
She can lie to your face about anything and everything, and it opened people's eyes up, because even in my board meetings, like a doctor on my board, that she goes, well, if she lies about that or does this, is she lying to me
Mhm.
every time I talk to her?
Mhm.
And then when I walk out the door, she's going, took care
Yeah.
of her,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You never know the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't think that she has many friends right now,
Mhm.
other than her. She does have that circle still,
Yeah.
you know, and they're standing around her like.
Are
Yeah.
they all people that are wealthy, I
Mhm.
guess?
Uh-huh.
There's
They're
your
the-
answer.
they're the Anastasi.
Yeah.
I know it all.
I
They're
know.
the wise
Right.
ones.
Yeah.
Right.
And that wasn't right for me to say it that way, but
No, I
Oh.
understand. Not that everybody with money is bad. It's
Mhm.
just some people
Use it.
misuse
Right.
that
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
yeah.
I completely
And
understand.
really, yeah, this stuff I wouldn't make
Yeah.
public.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I don't
Um,
blame you.
You
Yeah.
you have to handle it in a way, or I think, a lot of people said, why don't you just go after the juggler? Because I could have,
Mhm.
you know, if I were the same person as she was, I could have made her life miserable,
Yeah.
you know. But
Right.
during all this, my car got keyed. Things happened that, you know, were related to it, you know.
Mhm.
But I look at what would I do if I wasn't afraid?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you keep on
Right.
believing the good's gonna win.
Right.
I'm
Right.
sorry that happened to you. Thank you
Yeah.
for being so honest with us
Thank
about
you.
it.
That's good.
And you're probably one of the only ones that have been privy
Yeah.
to that whole
That's
story.
good.
Yeah.
No, we read through this stuff and
Mhm.
we were like, man, it's mentioned here and here
Wow.
and here.
See, I
And
didn't.
man, I'm wondering what that is.
Wow.
I really hope it's not something bad or
Yeah,
something
and
ugly.
yeah, exactly.
And
just because of how, because it was mentioned just a few times, and then we're like,
Wow.
okay, well, the fact that you mentioned it also gave us kind of like, okay, so she is open
Yeah.
to talking about this. It's not going to be something that, we can't.
Right. Well, it was.
Right.
It's a
But-
hard position to be
Yeah.
yeah.
in.
But it definitely sounds
Right.
like the consensus, at least from others, is that
That's
you
nice.
handled it very well.
So I haven't read what people wrote, so that's.
They were very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, very,
You have
very nice.
very
You have
nice.
good references.
You have good
yeah.
references,
for
and you
sure.
seem to have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of support from the community as well.
Yeah.
So.
They just like the nerdy things we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. And that's kind of a related question, not really, but, well, it is. The two ethics incidents we've talked about, the juicy questions in this
Yeah.
interview. So, like, we were asking the tough
That is
questions.
the
The
tough
tough questions.
Mhm.
But those two incidents, the one where that you had to let go the young girl,
Right.
and the mayor here, it seems like they partially resulted because of rumors that spread around. Like,
Mhm.
rumors had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
People, he said, she said kind of
Mhm.
incidences. Do you think that you and or your staff are, like, often the targets of rumors because of your positions? Or, yeah?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think anytime you're in a position, the chamber has to be so careful, very bipartisan, very
Yeah.
In the middle of religious situations, and
Okay.
you get all the different little groups in a town
Uh-huh.
that want you to promote this or promote that,
Uh-huh.
and we have to stay so we don't promote one candidate.
Oh, okay.
We don't promote one religion. We don't promote one anything because we're a member organization.
Mm-hmm.
We are made up of members that have all different beliefs and all
Mhm.
You
different
guys are
backgrounds.
diverse. You guys have
Oh,
And we
interesting.
have to not step on anybody's toes because they're all members.
Mhm.
So we have to stay very much
Neutral.
non-judgmental and neutral, and that's very hard to do. So we are a lot of times targeted. Myself more than my staff, I think. But that particular instance wouldn't have happened had I not sent that email out
Mhm.
and given them fuel for their fire.
Mhm.
you know.
Interesting. Yeah. And that must be very difficult to withhold kind of neutrality.
Mhm.
If you have personal convictions, of what might be right or wrong,
Mhm.
and you have
And if you're targeted personally, like
Yeah,
that, to remain impartial.
to still remain impartial must be really tough.
Mhm.
Because politics are crazy.
And you do have
I
to.
mean, holy moly.
You do have to.
Mhm.
Yeah, we do have meetings, with my small little staff every now and then when I feel like it's getting heated and it may be causing them a little bit of anxiety. We'll have meetings so they can vent and say how it's made them feel or if it's affecting their work or what solutions they feel like we need to do. I'm always open for anybody that works with me to say, this is really bothering me.
Mhm.
And maybe if we did it this way, or maybe if we did it that way. Now, if my staff gets targeted, I come out like a banny hen,
Mhm.
and I'm going to put myself in between them.
Mhm.
And I have no problem
Mhm.
being very forcefully vocal
Mhm.
if that happens.
Mhm.
Just
Right.
that's all there is to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if they were really in the wrong, we'll talk later.
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
I'm always going to do that. I
Right.
think it's my duty as a CEO
Right. Right.
to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You've done a wonderful job today. We've kept you busy talking.
Yeah. I know, you must be exhausted.
No,
You
I
must
know,
be
I kept wanting to
exhausted.
I'm not anxious
water
anymore.
or
I was so
Yeah.
anxious.
No, you just kind of
We were
blah,
too. We were like,
kind
oh
of-
my gosh.
Oh,
We were like,
yeah.
I hope we do
We're gonna
this
get the right questions.
Yeah.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
But
Neat.
it's great.
No, we thought it through. We came up with a ton of questions.
Oh,
but
I'm
we
very
thought everything
impressed
through.
with you guys.
Do you guys feel like we're missing anything? What have we not asked her
I
yet?
think we've
Is there anything missing?
No, what we're having to write a report about this,
Okay.
and so we're having to split. It's a very long report, like 20 pages.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're splitting up. That's why some of us were
Mhm.
asking questions so the other person could write the answer. And I'm having to do a section on just who you are.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you would like us to know about who you are, just as a person, I guess? And I don't know. I just thought
Yeah. I mean,
I
I
feel
don't.
like I've heard a lot
I
that it's
know what you're
very.
saying.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
neat. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
was.
Well, maybe okay. So, what standards and behavior, ethics wise, and everything personally, do you feel your employees should expect from you?
Exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, they should always expect me to set the standard,
Mm-hmm.
and that if I'm doing something that they feel like is even remotely not within the standards that we want to portray at the chamber, then I give them the opportunity or permission at the very
Mhm.
beginning. Tell me,
Mm-hmm.
please don't feel like you can't walk in my office and shut the door and say, maybe that was a little harsh,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe that was a little this. I mean,
Mhm.
I want them to always feel like they can be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if they feel like they need to share or talk with me about something, the door's open.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a lot of people that's not the policy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think,
What was you had mentioned your mission statement. What is your guys' mission statement?
well, I don't know it by heart. I think
Is
I
it
wrote
is it
it's
somewhere
a-
on a website?
Yeah,
or
it's
anything?
on the front page of our website.
Okay,
the
what is
Chamber
your
of Commerce,
okay?
Angel Fire Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, that's fine.
And it's one. It's that we promote. I don't know it word for word. I probably should. That we promote the growth of the community, and that we represent our businesses in community affairs and state affairs. Because we're legislative advocates
Okay.
for our businesses.
I just forgot to ask that
Mhm.
of all of our
Yeah, it
conversation. I
is.
just didn't know if you knew it or if we
I
could find
don't
it
know
somewhere.
it off
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
It's not 100%.
We're supposed to
word
do
for
some
word.
research anyway.
But yeah,
so.
it is. It's on our website.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'll take a
Yeah.
look at that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
I've
we
been
run
on
a
there
Facebook
too, but-
page too,
Mhm.
because the Facebook page, we do a blast every Monday. That's that's like a little newsletter
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
that goes out to people.
That's
Yeah.
neat that you guys do
Mhm.
that. I mean, everybody can see what's up pretty much.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we try to keep events going. Like right now is off season, but we post it on our Facebook page every month. Today, my Facebook page post before I left the home was about the emails that weren't going out. So if you weren't getting my emails, that's why.
Oh.
I found out, my board, we had a board meeting last Tuesday, and I always send a reminder out on Monday and tell them what they need to bring to the board meeting and, don't forget, da-da-da. And so we get to the board meeting, and the first thing they're saying is, you forgot to send us a reminder. I almost forgot. It's like,
You're like their mom.
I want to say, we're in the world of smartphones.
Yeah.
You put it in there that we meet every second Tuesday of every month at 3:30, but you didn't get my reminder, so is it really happening?
Yeah.
But I said, I did send your email, and every one of them immediately turned around and said, I didn't get it. We're in the middle of board elections, so I had a gentleman that kept telling me he wasn't getting the email. And I really didn't think about it much, but then when they said none of them had gotten it, well, then I knew, well, I'll check into it. So I called our little IT guy, and he came over and looked at it all and said, nothing's wrong. Your emails are going out. It says sent. They're all going. So maybe you need to call your provider. Well, I had to be in Ruidoso for a meeting at the first of this week. So yesterday when I got back in the office, I called Bluehost, is who they do our webpage and they're our email server, whatever. They have a new filter on their system. We've been using them for 11 years.
Yeah.
But overnight, 3 weeks ago, they marked my email as spam. And nothing has gone out in 3 weeks.
Wow.
So every email you got from me came from my phone, which was my personal.
Okay.
And I try not to use my personal for work because then I get really bombarded.
Yeah.
But for 3 weeks, they have shelved all of my emails, which has to do with a vendor call for our holiday market that went out to all these people. Anything I've done with the board, grants that I had deadlines on that I've passed and missed now, an ad that today was the deadline that was supposed to go out, and I'd sent her all the stuff. She didn't get it. Conversation with you. Anytime I get an email, I respond.
Yeah.
So if I didn't respond, it's just because they ate it and put it somewhere.
Wow.
That's
I'm
funny.
still getting hundreds of spams in my inbox, but they took a Business Chamber of Commerce email and decided I was spam because I send it out to groups. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
That's scary
Really?
that it did that.
And they didn't tell me.
Man.
They didn't say we've targeted you as spam. I had no idea, and it said it was sent.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. For 3 weeks, no one has gotten my emails.
Oh,
So
wow.
the guy that I was talking to, wasn't his fault, but he said I have to ask you all these questions, and so he was asking me, do you spam people? Do you send emails to people that don't want it? And I was like, no. Do you send out mass emails? Yes. It's membership, and everything that he asked, I was like, yes, yes. I am a Chamber of Commerce. And then he said, well, have you thought about using Constant Contact? I was like, I do use Constant Contact for our e-blast, but for private emails, never. No, that's why I have an email account.
Yeah.
And then he told me it would take 72 hours to remedy it.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't think that's really acceptable. But is there anything else I can do about it? This is a business. And then when I got off the phone with him and I went back to see everything that people had missed my correspondence, it made my brain hurt.
Oh, that's tough.
Seriously, so Monday I've got 3 weeks to catch up on. And so if you weren't getting immediate response, it's out there somewhere in the ozone.
Technology is just the worst.
So
Technology.
I
Man.
hate to start a public frenzy on Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't like it when people air their stuff on
Mhm.
Facebook. I don't like it but this morning I felt like I had to put out there on my Facebook page and say it's for me because I'm not the one posting most of the time. The girls, Ricky, do the posting. But I said, this is Joe, and this is what's happened, and if I haven't contacted you, I'm sorry. It's in the cemetery out there somewhere in the spam world, but it made me think, even coming to this, we talked about it on the way up here, I thought, I feel really strange because in the past 3 weeks, people have thought I haven't responded to them. People have not gotten my deadlines. I could have taken off for 3 weeks, and it'd be the same kind of situation. Because if you think of every email that comes in to you personally, much less a business, that you always say thank you, or yes, I appreciate that, or I got it, I'm working on it, and nobody got it. Nobody got my responses of any kind, or my grants.
Oh,
And so we won't be eligible.
Yeah, that's not
You
good.
miss a deadline, and you've missed the deadline. This morning, I did get a drive, for the ad. I just pulled the stuff down off of my computer and had her meet me because she's a local lady that does a magazine. And so I could do that before I got on the road to give to her, and her deadline was today. But she thought I'd just not sent her the stuff for the ad. So it made more work for her.
Oh, terrible.
So I called Janice at State, and we didn't get the grant in on time.
Janice,
Janice?
yeah, she's your nominator.
Really?
Janice Turry?
Oh, no. Oh,
is that
really?
different?
Johnny's? That's
Johnny's? Oh, that's different.
Yeah, Janice Garrard. She's at the State
Okay.
for the
'Cause
grant.
I
the
heard
art
that. I'm like,
grants.
I haven't seen that name, but Johnny's. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, you didn't
She
know
sits
that?
on my board.
You didn't know that?
No.
You
Aren't
didn't
they
know?
supposed to know that?
Are they not
I don't
supposed to
know.
know that?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just saying whatever's in here, whatever
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have.
I mean, that's
I thought-
okay.
I thought-
I
why
wouldn't
would you
care. But
I thought
I mean, I knew I was nominated by a peer or
Okay.
a work colleague.
I don't know. I thought
I
they had
didn't
all of it.
like we were not told that we weren't supposed to tell you these things.
No,
Yeah,
we
I
were
don't
not.
know.
I don't
wouldn't-
think it's bad.
And even
No.
if he did, the gentleman that was contacting me back and forth, he did send me a link when it came out in the Albuquerque paper, and then somebody else sent me a
Yeah, I
link
got
when
that.
they did the Sangre de Cristo.
Yeah.
That was Sangre de Cristo, I
Uh-huh.
think. So I've seen all those, but I haven't seen what people wrote, and I didn't know it was Johnny's that
Johnny's
nominated
Turry,
me.
yes. So what is your relationship to this person?
She's a great friend. She
Okay.
sits on my board.
Okay.
She volunteers at the chamber.
Oh, okay.
She's dynamite. She's a really, she's a worker.
Yeah.
She volunteers. She's retired, so she's a professional volunteer in Angel Fire. They moved
Nice.
from Albuquerque to Angel Fire.
Okay.
And you know what? That makes sense to me because she's the one that told me about. She used to sit on this board for the Ethics Award when she
Oh,
was
I
in
see.
Albuquerque.
Okay.
Oh, I
So
see.
she knew about it.
Mhm.
And
She knew about
thought
it.
you'd be great for it.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's
awesome.
great.
Well, yeah, no, I'm
Yeah, no,
No,
I didn't.
that's
anything
totally-
that's in here, like
That's
Yeah.
what I figured.
we
yeah.
were not told to
Well, at
like
this
not say
point,
stuff.
I
So
At this
Yeah.
point, it makes me, because you never expect to go past this point, but
right,
it's nice to know,
yeah,
all
right,
that. It's
right.
very nice to
Right.
know.
well,
And they've sent them into the office, the recommendations they sent into the office, but I didn't open them up.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'll wait. See what happens.
yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
No.
You've
It's
given us a lot of great
We
information.
really have.
yeah,
I feel like
Yeah.
we're ready to
I,
write it.
really
I
good.
can't even imagine having to write a paper. That's crazy.
Yes.
Yep. It's pretty
It's
big
due
project.
right after Thanksgiving.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
we've got
good
to
luck.
get to working
Yeah.
on it now.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
I
So
I think we've
enjoying
got the
the-
information we need.
Yeah,
I think,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think it'll
Thank
be
you so much
pretty
for
good.
coming.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Is
God,
there
it's
anything
awesome.
else that you wanted to add that you feel like you
Yeah.
you didn't get to say anything?
I could go on and on about how awesome my boys are and my
Yeah.
grandchildren and the ski slopes.
Well, I plan on taking a trip to Angel
Please
Fire.
do.
I would like to see it, and I would like to,
Yeah.
I don't know, like stay at a hotel, like do some
Mhm.
skiing, and just get a general feel for it.
You
It's
should.
my plan.
Yeah, you should.
So if I show up, I might just show up at your office to
That-
get
I
some
mean,
recommendations.
I say do that, but sometimes because I travel so much in January, if it's in January, call ahead.
Yeah,
Because I'm at legislation a
yeah,
lot.
I bet.
When session starts, well, I'm at school the first week, and then we have this big conference. So, and I'm in legislation. I take over as the president of the New Mexico Chamber Executives Association in January.
Mhm.
So I'll be at legislation
Mhm.
a lot,
Mhm.
and I'd hate to miss you.
Yeah.
I mean, so
I'll
if
email
it's
you
in
first.
January, yeah, let me
Yeah,
know.
I'll email you first for pointers. Because like I said, like I'm still like such a tourist here. I don't know anything about anything.
It's so beautiful
I
up
really
in that
don't.
area too. And if you're, we've got 3 little ski slopes.
Mhm.
Taos is more for a real expert skier. If you're black diamond skier or
Mhm.
or heavy
Mhm.
backcountry.
Mhm.
Angel Fire has the most skiable terrain,
Mhm.
and it's family friendly.
Nice.
But we have a backside. You know, if you want to go more black and out of bounds.
Mhm.
I don't do that anymore. I'm not even really big on bumps anymore.
Yeah.
Bubbles are not your friend when
Yeah.
you're over 50.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a great skiable mountain. And then Red River is more of a little western town. You know,
Nice.
Angel,
I've been wanting to see
well,
it.
Angel
Mhm.
Fire, Red River's a big metropolis to
Last
us.
time I was,
Oh,
last
wow.
time I was in Red
Wow.
River, it was small.
Yeah,
But
Wow.
my family, I have family that goes.
yeah.
vacation.
Red River has a real
Yeah.
town. We really don't. Angel
Wow.
Fire is a ski resort.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's,
Right.
you know, if you look on the map, it says Angel Fire Resort. It doesn't say the Village of Angel Fire.
Oh,
So
wow.
we are really just a little ski
But
resort.
you mentioned a bead store that
Yeah.
had the. So
Yeah.
you have shops and
we
stuff.
do have a few,
Okay.
not a lot, and we
Okay.
have some great restaurants.
Okay.
We do have good
Mhm.
restaurants. We have a great little coffee shop. The
Mhm.
Bump
Nice.
is the coffee shop, and their motto is coffee because crack's bad for you.
Yeah. I love coffee though. That's excellent. Excellent.
Fun.
Yeah.
So our
wow.
instructor was wanting us to. What they do is on
Oh,
the
yeah.
on
Oh
my
the,
gosh,
The selfie.
on the website for Anderson, every group that meets with their
Oh.
they like to take a selfie or a picture
Okay.
with them just to
Yeah.
kind of
Sure.
Can we do that?
Can we do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
guys
so
have
can we
fancy
figure out
phones?
how
I
to
don't.
make I'm
I
learning.
Maybe
don't.
we could go and ask somebody out there to
Oh,
just
yeah.
take a picture of us. Real
Okay.
quick.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's bug somebody out there.
And then you'll be
That'd
on
be
the
great.
Anderson
Yeah.
website.
Let's do it.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah. Awesome. That's a great
And you
idea.
can take some. I brought waters.
Oh,
and
thank
food.
you.
Yeah,
I will
just
take
take-
one with
take
me.
some.
We
Yeah,
also
please.
have some granola
Oh,
bars,
okay.
snacks for the road or anything.
It's student offerings, you know. It's
Okay.
minimal, but it's
I
we're
will.
trying.
We're on a budget.
We live on a budget.
Yeah. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Here,
Yes.
do you want one of these?
Yeah, I'll take one.
Okay, you guys all.
I'm
take
gonna
one.
leave my stuff for
Awesome.
now.
Yeah,
Maybe
we'll
we
leave
can
it.
That's
just.
fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I'll
we
come back
have
for my
some-
stuff.
Yeah, do you,
Do you guys have a fancy phone?
Like,
I have an
iPhone.
Do you have a good phone? Yeah, mine isn't fancy enough.
Okay.
She was fantastic.
She
Okay.
was great. I feel good, like, recommending her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Even just in all of her
Yeah.
answers, I'm like, okay, from like her first
Yeah.
answer to stuff, I'm like,
Shit,
oh,
I
I can totally recommend her.
Didn't stop recording.